All right. Hey, folks. Gene's from Regular Guy Mountain Biking. This episode, I'll be talking with my buddy Jared from Cure Cycling about mountain bike upgrades. But before we do that, let me introduce Jared. Jared, say hello to the millions of people that'll be watching this video later. Millions.
What's going on, everybody? I am Jared. My channel is called Cure Cycling. It is a dedicated mountain biking channel, very similar to Gene's. I do builds, bike reviews, that sort of thing, some trail riding, blase. But yeah, that's about it. So let's get it going. Gene, what you got?
We got, right now, we've got 2 people on. So the other 900 and plus thousands of people will be joining any minute too. So today, what we're going to be talking about will be about, hey, Daniel Bird, nice to have you on the chat over there. Okay, the chat's working too. Cool.
Sweet.
Well, we're going to be talking about, yeah, pull the chat up so you can talk to folks and stuff like that. Cool. Here's what we're talking about today, folks. A little bumpy start because last time I didn't get everything right, and this time I actually did, so I just got a little nervous about that. Recently, I put up a video about how I upgraded my Polygon Siskiyou D6. This is not a Polygon or another Bikes Online video, but that video gave birth to this video. How does that sound? Some of the comments in that, is that how I kind of wired it? Some of the comments in that video were, cool, like the parts, blah, 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 and some people were saying, well, why didn't you just buy the bike you wanted? Or, why did you put so much into upgrading that bike? Which are all valid questions. I mean, nobody was mean. They asked a question, so they deserve an answer. Mm-hmm. So that got me thinking, because I want to talk about some of the upgrades that I did on that bike, because they're general upgrades. And what I'm curious about, and hopefully I'll hear from some of you folks online, or you can put them in the comments below, I'm curious what an upgrade even is, because I did things like change the bars and change the grips. I don't really know if they're upgrades. Now, one of the reasons why I really wanted to have my buddy Jared on the call, again, not a Polygon video, but we happen to be working together with Bikes Online and reviewing these bikes, and he did an amazing job upgrading his T7. He's got a video on that. I definitely urge you to take a look at it. He did a wonderful job with that bike. It's totally worth stopping in and checking out that video. But other than the paint, dude, he upgraded that bike big time, didn't you, Jared? I mean, you really upgraded your T7 all the way.
Yeah, I did. And I also did a D5 a while back, which is similar to the story of your D6. I had a lot of those same comments, why did you upgrade that bike when you could have just bought the D6 or the D7? So I know what you're talking about. And I did have an answer for that. And I don't know if you want to get into that now. We can, or how you wanted to approach it.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to find out is, some of the things you did and some of the things I'll tell you about what I did on my bike. And I want to, this isn't really a debate. I'm just trying to get debate, not between you and me, but us and the world.
Sure.
What, are we just sick? Do we upgrade too much?
Probably a little bit.
I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit. I know my buddy, Brian from BKXE, he just takes his bike. I mean, a couple little things he likes, but other than that, that's his bike. He doesn't really upgrade much at all. And I've got other people like myself and like Jared where I just can't leave any screw unturned, So what I figured we'd talk about are things that you would consider are truly an upgrade and things you'd want to look at. And then things that really aren't an upgrade, but are just things that you happen to like. So I'll toss one in there for you, my friend. I happen to like the Lizard Skin North Shore grips. I like them. They feel good in my hands. I like a wider diameter grip. It's just what I like when I'm riding. Okay? Is that an upgrade? Do you think that that's an upgrade when you put that on your bike?
I think grips can definitely be an upgrade, especially in the sense that most of the time with these bikes, when you get them out of the box, they're giving you the worst contact points that they can give you because they know you're going to change them anyway. So, I've seen on some of these bikes, they'll send them out without even the lock rings on there. So, yeah, I would qualify a nice set of grips as an upgrade. It's just not one that's like super significant, but it definitely makes a difference, especially when you're talking about the diameter and stuff like that, because it can reduce arm pump for some riders, or inspire a little bit more confidence because they have more to hold on to, that sort of thing.
But now, is it an upgrade or is that a personal choice thing? Because a number of the things that I put on that D6 were things that I happen to like on my bike. Okay, so I don't know if it's an upgrade as much as these are the grips that I like to ride with. So I want those grips. That's where I was kind of going with it. You're right. They're certainly an upgrade to the little rubber crappy things that come on the handlebars. But
for sure,
where I'm trying to look at it as is, some people were saying, well, why don't you just find the bike with the stuff that you want on it? It would be literally impossible to find a mountain bike that has every single little piece that I want on it that would work for everybody. You know what I'm saying, man?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, there is no bike that's going to tackle all of your preferences. Like for me, I have certain nuanced preferences of my own. I like bars that are about 30 to 35 mil rise. I like my bars at 800 mil wide. I've got all these little things that I prefer, and to assume that every bike is going to come spec that way out the box to appease just me it's not a real thing.
Yeah. So,
but
buddy James. Oh, good, Jared.
I was just going to say earlier, you were discussing people always ask that question. Hey, why are you sinking all this money into this model? Like when I did the D5, when you could just buy the D6 or D7. My response to that, and this might be a little off topic, but it's true. Those aren't always available. Right now, we're going through a shortage. Some people may only be able to get their hands on the D5 or the D6. Why? Well, you can't assume that they're going to be able to get their hands on the D7, even if they want it. So sometimes people are doing these builds out of necessity to make the bike that they wanted all along.
That's actually that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. So there's always going to be a market.
Be able to get the bike you want. Yeah.
Right.
You might not be able to get the bike that's spot on, dude.
And that's exactly what happened with the D5. So the D5, the gentleman, my patron who had bought that bike, he was actually one of the Ibis Ritmo AF, but couldn't get it. And the D5 was the only bike he could find in stock. So what did we do? We built it and we modded it. We made it. We optimized it. I mean, sometimes that's all you can do.
That's a good point. I mean, like my buddy James, what do you say over here? Similar quality cockpit components are simply personalization. Exactly. I mean, you like to personalize the cockpit. I'm sorry. Most of the bikes that come out have the crappiest dropper seat post levers on the planet. I mean,
facts.
They're like one step better than you just holding the cable with your hand and pulling it. These levers are horrendous. So by adding a Pacific Northwest or a Wolf Tooth remote dropper lever on your bars, I don't see how that's an upgrade. So if I gave you like 10 different things, but they were things like pedals, grips, lever, I don't think I overdid it. I don't think that I could have bought the better bike, because these things aren't going to be on those bikes.
No, they're not. You can buy a $5,000 carbon bike, and they're still going to give you those junky levers. That's just that's how it is. I mean, you might get something slightly better than the little rinky-dink ones that you get on the lower spec level. But yeah, there are certain bits that you just have to buy if you want them, because they're not going to come on your bike.
So what are your favorite upgrades that you like? Oh, look, gotta stop. Customizations or personalizations. What are your favorite personalizations? Like if I had 5 Jared bikes in front of me, what are the things that I would probably see on your bikes that you generally like?
So there's always going back to the P&W loam lever. I'm on my 5th one, and they typically, they're amazing. Right now, I'm rocking my 5th one, but this time I finally bought black on black. That way it could roll from bike to bike. I kept buying the color that would match the theme, and then when I would get the next bike, I couldn't use it anymore because it didn't match, and I am that picky. So I bought a black on black one that I can use over and over again. Now, that's on the small scale. Some other small scale bits that I'm picky about is all my contact points. saddle, pedals, grips, the things that I'm actually making contact with. I'm very choosy about that. You're going to see the same ones every time. Gotcha. But there's also big scale ones too, but I don't know if we're there in the conversation yet.
I've got a post, like, Benny, I'm sorry. I'm not used to looking at the chat over in Facebook. I was only looking at the live stream on YouTube. But Benny, listen to this guy. He goes, I did rims, complete drivetrain, seat, stem, bars, headset, pedals, grips, dropper. Oh, and hubs too. And that's just one bike. I have 9. Okay. I'm feeling way more sane because, Benny, you trump me hardcore. Like, you make me look like a novice, buddy. All right? I mean, wow, funny. Dude. That's a lot of stuff. So, for sure. So you've got some things that you like, right? I mean, look, so I have, and folks, this isn't a commercial for parts. These are just the parts that we like, okay? This is not a, I'm not going to take a shirt off and it's going to say Pacific Northwest and take another shirt off and it's going to say Wolf Tooth. But what I'm going to tell you, these are the parts that I use. There are 2 dropper seat post levers that I love that are on every one of my bikes except for one, and they are the Pacific Northwest loam lever or the Wolf Tooth remote lever, and I like both of them the same level. Each one has something that's special about it, and I don't care what comes on a bike. Odds are that lever's coming off, and the reason why I'm saying all but one bike is because the D6 that I have also came with a crappy lever. I just happen to have a decent, because TransX does actually make a decent lever. I happen to have one. I put that lever on it, and I'm like, well, I'll save a couple dollars and put that on because it was literally sitting in a box. But other than that, those are the levers that I have on every one of my bikes. But that's a personalization that I will always have on my bikes. For sure. That just works for me, Yep. Now, another thing is pedals, okay? I like the Catalyst pedals by Pedaling Innovations, okay?
Never heard of those.
Folks, they're the big like surfboard pedals.
Oh, yes, I do know those. The ones that are long?
Yeah, those long, and then they give you, those are my favorite. Every single bike has those pedals on it. Now, a lot of the higher end bikes don't even come with pedals. Okay. Nope. So again,
it's a waste for them to come with pedals because everyone has a preference.
Right, and 50% flat or clipless. Like, they could give you the best They could give me the best clipless pedals on the market, and that's a whole other conversation. There is no best because everyone's going to have their own best. But they could give me high end, and I'd be like, I don't like clipless. I ride flats, so that was a waste. Yep. So that stuff that I feel are personalizations, things like, your grips, your pedals, your stem and your handlebars. Like, you might want it. Now, one of the things that's pretty cool about my local bike shop, Sussex Bike Shop, is for a full year, they will continue to tune that bike to make sure it fits and feels the way you want. They go as far as changing the stems out, the bars, to make sure it feels right. So that's pretty huge because, just because the bike comes with a 50 millimeter or 30 millimeter stem, it doesn't mean that that's perfect for you, Right. So that's pretty cool. And then you might be tweaking the bike a little bit. So some of your upgrades might change. On my Nomad, it had a longer stem, but then I put on a 9.8 stout stem, which is really nice because I was generally using that bike for downhill. So I wanted to be back a little bit, and I wanted to be, have that short little stubby stem.
Yeah.
That's what I want. But that stem is not technically better than the one that came on the bike, so it's not an upgrade. Right. It's the feel that you see. I know I'm really beating this horse dead into the ground. It's just that I think when we talk about things like that, upgrades are upgrades, and some of them are just personal choice or just making the bike feel the way you want. If you get a bike with an awesome bike that has a seat that your ass is killing you every time you ride the bike, and you happen to get a seat that makes you feel good, That's not an upgrade, man. That's called saving your ass. You know, I mean,
Right.
it hurts. You know,
it's an optimization for your preference or your body type or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Want to send a couple shouts out. We got a bunch of friends on the line over here. We got Mickey's on. We got my buddy James the Bike Guy's on. Heather's here. Manny's on. Good to see you, Manny. We've got the Turtle. Turtle's new to the channel. Thanks for being on the channel, on the live stream, Turtle. That's pretty cool.
44-year-old mountain biking rookie. I like it. Never too late.
Yep. Nope. Good man. So, now I want to talk about actual upgrades. Okay, and why you would do that. So, I would say, personally, changing your fork would probably be an upgrade. Okay, that's not like, you know, I wanted the blue one and it came in yellow. You know, you're doing that for a specific reason. So I know why I would like to upgrade a fork. Is there any specific reason, Jared, why you would go and take a perfectly good fork that's riding on your bike and pull it off and put something else on?
Yeah, so the reason why, for example, with my Polygon Siskiyou T7, the reason why I removed the Recon fork on there was not that it was a bad fork. It did its job perfectly fine, and it would have continued to do so for years. But it was heavier because it is a less expensive option, so there's always the factor of weight. And also, I had been coming from a lot of high-level forks, so I've kind of, you know, gained an affinity for certain features that the higher-level forks provide that the lower levels don't, like really good small bump sensitivity and air spring progression. On a Recon, you can't modulate the air spring progression at all. There's no option to add volume reducers at all. So what you get is what you get, and what that often means is that you have to overpressurize the air chamber to prevent it from bottoming out, which then means that you don't have that small bump sensitivity, and it can be a little chattery when things get busy on the trail.
No, and you're totally right. On my D6, I've been working with SR Suntour. They've been wonderful to the channel. So yes, this is a complete plug. I'm going to do it because they're very nice people and they're cool to me. And I reached out to my buddy over there and I said, look, I'd really like to get a different shock on this bike. And the reason why is very similar to what you just said. Sometimes the features of these suspension products are just not up to snuff, and suspension is huge. I mean, that literally makes a bike good or bad. I mean, like this is like I don't ever want to ride this bike again, or I don't ever want to get off this bike again. So I think your points are like bang on valid, Jared. With the shock that I put on my bike, you couldn't put a volume spacer in. That's very similar to what you were saying before. I was constantly bottoming out, and the only way to fix that on a bike that has very minimal controls is more air. So that means I'm going a little bit past my sag point to keep it from bottoming out. But that's not really good because, see, without a volume spacer, so understand, folks, what a volume spacer does is it ramps up the bottoming out. So when you're hitting these bumps, it's not that hard to kind of compress the fork, compress the shock. Okay, but now you hit something hard. And, well, rather than it being linear, it says, whoa, I'm going to make it really tough to the end. That's why you hear this term limitless travel. Because it's like really hard to really bottom out because there's less room in there and it makes it harder to collapse the device. Well, that's why Jared was saying he's able to keep his shock a little more plush at the lower end because you don't have as much pressure, but the volume spacer will help ramp it up. And that's what I wanted on the shock in my bike. I wanted to know that my chubby butt was going to be covered on some of the drops, but I wasn't going to have to make it so hard that every time I rode over some pebble gravel, it was killing me. And that was a legitimate reason for me to want to get that different shock. But that doesn't make the bike bad, and it doesn't mean that the next version up was going to have the shock that I exactly wanted. Or, to your point earlier, Jared, suppose that bike that was further up wasn't available. So should I not get it? If I like the idea of upgrading the parts. That's why there's such a huge market for aftermarket parts.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's always the off chance that sometimes the bike with the lower level actually has a more preferential piece, which is rare, but it happens. Like, for example, I actually prefer the rear shock that my T7 came with over the shock that the T8 comes with. I find
Really?
that the DPS to me, it just seems more oriented for lightweight riders. I mean, you can look at the air cans of both shocks and see what I'm talking about. The Deluxe Select Plus is a pretty beefy shock.
Yeah. Hey, folks, I see some people putting in the chat that every once in a while Jared's voice speeds up or whatnot with the internet. Don't worry about it. One of the things I do with this Riverside app that I use to host all these is they all get recorded, and then I recut this up, and it ends up coming out perfect later on. So this is just a way for us to all get all the internet up there and everything up there hosted so I can play around with it so we can all chat. But thanks for having the info on here. And, oh, look at that. Bikes Online just jumped on. Good to have Bikes Online.
Bikes Online. That's
What's going
our
on, guys.
That's our big
Nice.
support right there. Nice to see y'all.
Yeah. So we were just saying all these bad things about Bikes Online. Now, okay, let's stop the chat now. We got to turn this off.
We got to get out of here. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
No, but that's a good point, man. Sometimes, folks, you like a particular brand. You know what? Actually, Jared, that's an excellent point. So when I bought my Santa Cruz Nomad, the higher version had all Shimano drivetrain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I happen to like SRAM at that point. Now I'm very big on box, but at that point I was a SRAM guy. So guess what, folks? The upgrade or the higher version actually was a downgrade to me because
Right.
I didn't want those components. So when it comes to upgrades, you know, man, I think it really comes down to what you want on the bike. So for me, the T7, okay, that's a lot different than the D6, okay? And again, folks, like we said, we're talking Polygon bikes because Jared and I have them in common, and they're sitting in our houses over here, and they're easy for us to speak to. But in
Yep.
general, the D6, I felt I needed to upgrade more to get it where I wanted it to be. It's on my YouTube channel. You can watch it. The fork was not the fork that I wanted. I now have the fork that I love on it, and I needed to do some things to get
What
that
fork
bike
is
where
it?
I wanted it to be. Oh, now I've got a Santa Cruz Axon on there. I'm not Santa Cruz, an SR Suntour Axon. Yeah, and it's great. I can adjust the travel of it between 100, 110, and 140. It's got all the adjustments. It's a sweet fork.
Suntour makes some really awesome forks. I was talking about that recently.
really
My
do.
wife's got the Ion 35. It was a $600 fork, and we found it on Chain Reaction Cycles for $180. And I scooped it, blown away. Fork's really, really stinking good.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why I'm working with SR Suntour, because when you think of that brand, unfortunately, you think about all the little Suntour parts on the Walmart bikes.
Yeah, everyone's like,
And
oh, XCM.
that's not a but it's not a true reflection of the quality of the parts that they can make.
Not at
the
all.
Parts that I have on my bike, from no way, their parts are sweet.
Yeah,
But
and there are definitely some people, that the Suntour forks are great for certain people. Like, a lot of people who ride mountain bikes, they don't want to maintain their bikes, right? I'm sure you've seen this. And they all go for Fox. And the funny thing is, Fox is the most finicky fork system. You're technically supposed to do a lower leg service every 30 hours. Whereas on a Suntour fork, it's every 70. They need almost no maintenance. The Suntour forks are impressive in that regard.
the ones that I have, there's not even any oil in them. So
No, they don't use bath
service-
oil.
No,
They're
awesome.
their concept is that, since I spoke with a Suntour rep once on the phone because I had some questions, and he was saying they're basically, gravity states that bath oil is going to go to the bottom of the fork leg anyway, so why put it in there if it's just going to sit at the bottom? So they really just
point.
grease the seals and the dust wipers really well with like slick honey and let it ride. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it works great. But now, like I was saying, the D6, in my opinion, needed a little bit more love. Now, the T, got a buddy on here that asked what he should upgrade on his T7. I got to tell you, not a lot. My T7, sitting right there, all right? Sometimes you get a bike out of the gate that just rocks. All right.
Yep.
Now, sitting right next to it, there's a D6. I got no problem saying that I had to upgrade a couple things on that bike to get it where I wanted. But the T7, I'm probably not going to do much to that bike. I mean, that thing just feels awesome the way it is.
It doesn't need it. I was actually quite blown away with the T7, and that kind of, I tried to verbalize that in my initial trail review of it. It's so balanced that there were no strong compromises. And I spent a lot of time reviewing bikes, especially in 2020. And most bikes in the price point, in and around that price point, had issues where, like, the brakes really are the drawback of the platform. Mm-hmm. But my bike really didn't have any. I just, I modded the crap out of mine just because I work on YouTube and I wanted to, basically blow people away a little bit. Like, just make something really exciting and fun to look at and fun to talk about. But that bike didn't need much.
No, but to be fair, you did something amazing with that bike. Sometimes people upgrade their bikes because they simply need it to weigh less.
Sure.
Okay? They want to do things to get it to a certain level. So Jared took a 38-pound bike and dropped it down to 32 pounds. Check out his video. He'll show you all the parts he put on it. 31. I'm
31.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And what's the most impressive part is that if I took off the chain guard, not chain guard, bash guard, I put a pretty beefy bash guard on there, and I changed the tires because the Versus tires are not light. I could have gotten this bike sub 30. And that was another thing I wanted to prove to people. Everyone's like, oh, the T7's so heavy. I'm going to go with the Mythique. And the Mythique's a great bike. Not talking smack on the Mythique. But with just, over time, upgrading, you can certainly trim all that weight off. It's not the T7 that's heavy.
Now, something else to note, folks. A lot of times you'll see us YouTube knuckleheads upgrade a lot of things right out of the gate fast. Okay. Part of that's for the channel. Okay, we're working with a lot of different companies, so we're getting the parts and doing it. Okay, I mean, like, I got boxes of stuff. That's why I keep the camera right here, because there's this stuff all over this office from places. So I'm throwing it on. How am I have to have content, or you guys are going to see me running the same thing every single time. But I don't recommend always going and taking a perfectly good bike and upgrading the bejesus out of it, because, like, how do you really even know what was wrong and why you even wanted to upgrade it? And if you didn't ride the bike long enough in the beginning, how do you know if the upgrade really gave you any benefit? So that's when you truly get to figure out what an upgrade is, because you've been riding. Now I can go and compare that to the blah, and we can see how that works.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Again, the only reason why I went crazy on the T7 is I had the parts sitting for quite some time while I waited for it to arrive. And again, I work on YouTube, so people like to see crazy stuff on YouTube. They want to see exciting stuff, so that's what I did with it. But the next bike that I get from Polygon, I'm probably going to take a slower approach, like you're saying, ride it and actually get to know the bike and where it falls short, and then work on correcting it incrementally to optimize the bike as effectively as possible without blowing the budget out of the water.
Yeah, that's a good point, because then you can really pick and choose different things. It's still always going to come down to the eyes of the beholder and what they want, right? I mean, like,
for sure,
some people are going to say, well, I don't like the way that lever feels, and over time, and other people are going to say, but I love the way that lever feels.
Yeah.
Now, something else I recommend. Let's be honest over here. Parts wear. And that's why I'm saying you don't have to upgrade everything right away. I know that you're seeing us do that, but part of that is very much because of the channel and what we're doing. I like box components. I like box. Am I going to take the perfectly good and working drivetrains off these bikes that I have behind me, rip them off, and put box on them right away? Probably not. I mean, I do like box. I might do something if I want to do a little bit of upgrading here. The D6, it doesn't have the nice big pizza pie ring up there. The cassette. What is it called? I think it's a 46 or 40.
Dior 1x10 on there, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have the nice 50, 52.
To
big
be
old
honest,
boy bailout. Yeah,
To be honest with you, dude, and this might be a hot take, I would prefer, just personally, I would prefer that bike brands now spec it with that drivetrain as long as I get better brakes and better suspension. I always found that the Deore 1x10 to be more than adequate for the terrain that I tackle. I just know that we're in the age of 12 speed, so got to work with what's popular, I guess.
I just love having the bailout gear, but you can get around that. So here's something that I've ordered for the T7, folks. If you want to, you're asking about a T7. It comes with a 32 tooth chain ring. I have a 30 coming in because that's going to help offset the not as big cassette in the back. So there's other ways of still getting that bailout gear if it's and it's a cheaper way, right? Rather than going, so sometimes you have to figure out what do you want to get out of the upgrade. If you're simply trying to get that extra bit of leverage to climb up the hills. I mean, we just live in rocky hills over here, man. It's hell.
Yeah. Different terrain here in the South.
It's I mean, look, I'm not complaining. I absolutely love it because guess what happens when you go up the hill? You get to bomb down that son of a gun and it's freaking awesome. But you got to get to the top. So, case in point, I took the T7 over to a place called Port Jervis and we went to, hey, Eric's on. Eric, you'd like this. My buddy Eric Sassy's online. I love this guy. We were over at We were over at Port Jervis, and we went to Painted Apron. Painted Apron, Jared, it's such an amazing trail. It's such an awesome trail. But you really got to pedal up to get to the top of this thing. It's not like West Coast pedaling up an hour.
Right.
But sometimes you want to do an upgrade to just make the bike a little easier to use. So I'm dropping that ring from a 32 tooth to a 30 tooth in lieu of upgrading the entire drivetrain because it works pretty good. That's what I'm doing to make a small tweak to make the bike ride a little easier for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as drivetrains are concerned for me, generally speaking these days, I'm perfectly happy with the mid-level stuff. I've kind of come to terms with the fact that like as you go higher up in the spec levels, you're really just paying to shed some grams and to have like bragging rights. For example, T7's got Deore. You really don't need to change it. It's so good.
Yeah, my buddy Steve's on the. I'm switching between Facebook and YouTube. Steve's over on Facebook, and he's got his D7 coming in. Can't wait. And he's like, Gene, D7's got a 52. I'm like, I know. But that's the thing, man. Sometimes you need to get the bike tweaked to do what you want it to do, and that small little change is really going to help. Now, talking about drivetrains, my buddy James, I'm not sure if you're still online or not, but my buddy James from James the Bike Guy, he's another great YouTuber, helped me out a lot with all kinds of stuff. Have you ever heard of micro shift, Jared?
Micro shift?
You heard of that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I put on the D5. The D5 had a 9-speed cassette, so rather than go change out the whole drivetrain, I reused the 9-speed cassette and used the micro shift 9-speed clutch drivetrain system. I just popped on the shifter and the derailleur and went to town.
Really? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was listening. I had a buddy over here ask a question about that because I'm going to try micro shift out next.
Micro shift's solid. So like,
it's not expensive and pretty good.
Not at all. And a lot of like lower end bikes, they'll be spec'd with like an 8-speed or a 9-speed cassette. And micro shift now has they even have an 8-speed clutch system. So if you have a bike with an 8-speed in the back, you can get a clutch derailleur and shifter on that bad boy and at least be quiet on the trails. So they found their market. It's kind of in that lower price point, but it's quality. I find that the clutch is pretty solid and it has an on-off switch, so it makes getting the wheel off easy. Good stuff. I'm a fan of micro shift.
I'm going to give it a try. I'm definitely going to give micro shift a try next. So that leads us to another area of upgrades. Sometimes, folks, you just have a mountain bike sickness and you just like to try stuff out. That's it. Sometimes you just want to play, okay? Sometimes you try different tires, just try the different traction. Sometimes you try a different brand of something because you just want to. I don't think you will ever find a bike with everything you want on it. And to be fair, even if you did find a bike that had everything you wanted on it, guess what happens next year? Everybody's got new stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's obsolete.
You're already behind, right? And you're obsolete already. So sometimes upgrading is just fun, you know?
Right.
I do agree that, again, I'll just say it one last time. Sometimes we go and buy a whole bunch of parts in the beginning. I did the same thing, and we did it, but a lot of it's just for the channel focus. Most of my bikes, like when I bought my Remedy, my Trek Remedy, really like that bike. Actually,
That's a good bike. I've ridden a Remedy in Bentonville.
It was nice.
Mm-hmm.
I made somebody very, very happy when I sold it to him. He was in his glory. But that was a very slow upgrade. You know, little by little, I changed some things on that bike. I went with a oval chain ring in the front. I've kind of liked those. So that got changed. Little things got upgraded on that bike incrementally, and it was a little easier to go that way, and made the bike my own. It really made the bike my own, you know.
Yep, for sure. And I've done it both ways. I've done incremental modifications. I've done ones where, you know, I've put all the best of the best stuff on the bike and spent way too much money. You know, I got the sickness, as you would say. I've kind of experienced it all over the past few years, and I've found what I like and what I don't. And again, I don't think that you have to have top dog everything to have an optimized bike at all.
No. In fact, my buddy Joe loves to do this. He goes and buys all the colored ionized screws, you know, for the rotors and stuff like that. And a lot of us get the colored spacers for the stack on the head tube.
Yeah.
If you're really into the sport, you just love these bikes. You love the bikes, so you just like to make them
your own,
the way you want them. To make them your own, you know. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's artistic expression involved in it, you know. I mean, for us mountain bikers, what we ride is our canvas, you know, and our artistic expression gets poured in the way that we build it, and that's perfectly valid. You know, I appreciate really extensive builds with the bolts and all that. It's a beautiful thing, but again, it's not really like a necessary thing, I guess you'd say.
Now that goes to the next point. The orange guy, you guys might recognize the regular guy mountain biking pumpkin bike build, right? So now you've got the other side of the whole equation over here. Remember this, quite often with bike manufacturers, the frame is a constant, okay? The entry-level, middle-of-the-road, and high-end bike, they all use the same frame, quite often, okay? Santa Cruz will have an aluminum, a carbon, and then a CC over. Okay, but most of the time, you got a frame. And what makes it the higher level one is just the components. So sometimes you just buy the frame, right? When you really want the bike to be yours. That's what I'm bringing this up for you, my friend. There's Eric. That's what Eric did, right? My buddy Eric, he bought a frame. He's like, look, I want these parts. These are the parts. Now he has one bike. Okay, that guy can cruise on the a place called the Lair, just a flow, and that guy can take that bike to Mountain Creek and blow you away on stuff. So he can make that bike do anything. I'm always jealous of riding with him because he's so much better than me. There's a whole story. There's a story around that. Yeah, I hate riding with him because he's just anyway. But that's not an upgrade. That's a passion. That's a guy that said, I want this frame, I want these parts, and he made that bike his own, and it came out beautiful. It's a beautiful bike. It's a Yeti, and
what is it, SB 150 or something?
Eric, what Yeti did you buy again there? You know, he'll there's a delay between the YouTube chat when I ask the question, so he'll put it in there. So yeah, Eric, well, I don't know what model you bought over there.
SB6.
But yeah, is it an SB6?
Yeah, he just replied.
Out. Oh, did he? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, how'd you get it faster than me? Thanks, Eric.
I've got my phone. I've got my phone in the live chat over here, so I'm watching it from there. It tends to be pretty quick.
Gotcha. Well, that came out really, really nice. So I would have to say this. If you're really, really into upgrading, then sometimes it's just better to get the frame. Now, here's another reason why you might want to do that. Sometimes what you end up doing, and that's what I'm going to do with the pumpkin bike, is you create a collection of parts that you really like. Remember, no bike is going to be exactly what you want. But you know what? I don't care what the next version of the blah blah brakes come out. These brakes are so freaking good that these are the ones that I want.
Right.
I love these brakes. These are the ones that save my ass every time I go down the hill.
Which
these
brakes are those?
And you... Oh, no, I'm just in general. I apologize.
As an
I'm just saying,
example. Okay.
in time, you might come up with a set of parts that you just love.
Sure.
And you want to get the next frame. So you buy another frame. You strip down the one you have. You might have to get a new cassette, a headset, a new bottom bracket to fit. But in general, you've got your part kit. I'll tell you right now, if you spend a good $1,500 to $2,000 on a set of carbon wheels, you're taking those wheels to your next bike. My buddy Manny posted up here. He was saying, he wanted his carbon wheels. My buddy Brian, he's got another YouTube channel. I love Brian. He wanted to get his carbon wheels. You don't spend $2,000 on a set of wheels and then, well, most of us, and then just do it again. So often what you're doing is you're collecting a set of parts that mean something to you.
Right.
And then you love those parts and you rely on those parts. So now when you get the next bike, you're moving those parts over to that bike.
For sure. It's another topic that I was just thinking about in regards to upgrades is that, people always say, why don't you buy the bike already completely modded? This kind of goes back to that topic because somebody asked me about that with the T7. They're like, why wouldn't you have just bought X carbon bike? It has most of these parts on it. Well, the truth is, to be honest with you, I prefer alloy bikes, and there is no such thing as an alloy bike anymore that comes with higher level suspension, which is something that I prefer. So I have to build it regardless because that's what I like.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm just replying back to my buddy Manny over here. Manny's like, look, even if you suck, if you make your bike look good, then you still look cool.
Oh,
man,
yeah, sure.
You're reading my mind, dude, because you saw me ride, man. Man, a lot of you guys know how bad a rider I am. Now here's the other side. My buddy Chris is on right now, precision dent removal, okay? Another just ridiculously powerful rider, okay? He's the kind of guy that, hey, I'll meet you at the top of the hill, Gene. It's like, all right, fine. But at the end of the day, that guy can just take a bike, do a couple changes, and just kill it. He's just, sometimes you're just that good, and you get the kind of bike that you want. Now he buys better bikes, okay? He doesn't skimp on his bikes. His bikes are good bikes. But there's only a few things I've seen him do, a couple tweaks here and there on the bike. The only thing he does on that bike is haul, up the hill and right by me. So
yeah, those are like anomalies.
What you want.
There are those people out there that can just hop on any bike and just completely shred, be comfortable, do whatever. I'm not one of those people. I normally have to adjust pretty much everything until I'm comfortable, and then I can start sending it. So it just depends from person to person.
Yeah, it does. It comes down to how you are and what you want out of the bike. So that's basically what I like to do to the bikes over here, is just tweak them the way I want. Maybe I go a little bit overboard, but it also makes me happy. I sometimes upgrading is just kind of makes me happy.
Yep.
Take a look at for questions over here.
For sure, it definitely makes me happy too, and I definitely I'll be the first to tell you I go overboard. And that's something I was doing before I even had a channel, but at least now I get to show it to people and they appreciate it, and it starts a dialogue, and we talk about bikes and we get stoked. So it serves its purpose now, so I'm thankful.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, look, that's really what I wanted to talk about tonight. I actually had a really good time doing this. It was great having my buddy Jared online over here.
For sure.
I just felt like, I guess it's not like I was trying to, you know, justify what I was doing, but I just wanted to explain what my thoughts are around mountain bike upgrades. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
kind of lay it out there that there's more to it than just buying the bike that you want, because for a guy like me and a guy like Jared and a gal like most of the people on the chats, there will never be the bike that you exactly want. You need to get yourself a bike that you're happy with.
Yep.
And then you make it your own, whether it's a little bit of bling or you rip the fork off the front.
Yeah, whatever gets you stoked to ride. That's the most important thing. Like, for some people, that might be just slapping on a set of grips and pedals with a splash of color, and for the next guy, it might be slapping on a $1,000 Lyric Ultimate. We're all different.
Yeah. That's going to do it for this bike chat over here, Mountain Bike Upgrades. One more time, I want to thank my buddy Jared he is from Cure Cycling. I will, again, like I said, take this and wrap it up and make a better version of it on YouTube, and there'll be a link to his channel on it, so you can go and take a look at his channel and take a look at the work he's done on his Polygon bikes. They came out really nice.
Thank you, Gene.
And that's good. Yeah, no, you did a wonderful job, man. You did a really, really good job.
And thanks for having me on this.
We're doing
this podcast.
Oh yeah. No, my pleasure. My pleasure. It was awesome. We'll definitely do more of these together. I've been trying to do them. Heather, you had asked before about this. I'm trying to do them every other week. Okay, every other Wednesday. So this way I can get a nice amount of these done, but I don't try to overwhelm myself. If I say I'm going to do it every Wednesday, I'm not going to be able to. I can't keep up with that schedule.
That's a high expectation for yourself. I agree.
It's more than I can do right now. But every other week gives me enough time to queue up the next one. Hopefully, the next one will be all about suspension and upgrading and tweaking the suspension and making changes to it. I'm trying to land a company that I'll be talking about, but don't hold me to it. We'll see if that's going to work out or not. But that's what I've been trying to do, is line these up every other week. Exactly. So I'm going to close this time because I'm babbling right now. Gene from Regular Guy Mountain Biking. Keep the party on the pedals, my friends. It was so nice to have you all. One more time, Jared, thanks so much. And thank you all on the chats. You're wonderful. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And please take a look at Jared's channel and support him as well.
Yes, thank you guys.
Good night, everybody.